So after weeks of deliberation, we now have a preferred bidder for Chelsea. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is here. So the Todd Boehly Group has won. Remind us about them.
Well, look, basically what's happened is that 2 weeks ago we had the deadline for the groups interested in buying Chelsea to put in their final bids. The Todd Boehly consortium put in their final bid, the Sir Martin Broughton consortium and also the Stephen Pagluka consortium all put in their final bids. And over the past 2 weeks, the Rain Group, the investment bank who are overseeing the sale, have been trying to pick a preferred bidder, one of these groups to have exclusive talks with about buying Chelsea from Roman Abramovich. And this evening, it looks like they have picked the Todd Boehly consortium. Now, the Todd Boehly consortium, right from the start, were the front runners. They have a lot of money behind them. They're one of the groups who actually were overfunded. That meant they had more money than they needed to buy Chelsea. And what's significant is that they're backed by Clearlake Capital, a massive investment company based in California. They are providing most of the financing for the bid. Also, of course, they are backed by Hans-Jörg Wyss. If you remember, it seems like
yes,
a long time ago, but he was the Swiss billionaire businessman who's based in the United States, who first gave the game away. He gave an interview with a Swiss newspaper in which he said, Roman Abramovich is trying to sell Chelsea, and I'm interested with some other businessmen in buying it, but at the moment he's asking for too much money. Also in that consortium is a very well-connected English businessman called Jonathan Goldstein, who's a property investor, knows all about the property market in London, central London especially. And he, I think, will provide, if they get to buy Chelsea, he will be the brains and the experience and the know-how behind redeveloping Stamford Bridge. So I think he will play a key role. Other people in that consortium, Daniel Finkelstein, Lord Finkelstein, who's a former government advisor, columnist for the Times newspaper, big Chelsea supporter, and also another Chelsea supporter, Barbara Sharoni, who's a PR expert, set up her own music PR company, one of the biggest music PR companies in the world, about 20 years ago. So they're all part of the consortium. They're also being backed by one of the biggest investment banks in the world, Goldman Sachs. And this evening, it looks like they have been selected by the Rain Group to be the preferred bidder.
Now, we had a last-minute bidder today who claimed that actually, because his money came from elsewhere, he wasn't in it to make money out of Chelsea. Given that it's the Boehly Group, will Chelsea fans be happy with Americans, essentially Clearlake Capital, who do want to make money out of their club?
A very good question. I think the general feeling, I can't speak for all Chelsea supporters, but the sense I get from Chelsea supporters is that if they had to pick one of the groups to buy Chelsea, quite a lot of them would have gone for the Todd Boehly consortium. That is, of course, before Sir Jim Ratcliffe made his late bid this morning. I think Todd Boehly, what's interesting is he's not somebody who has just come out of nowhere. He has been interested in buying Chelsea for a long time. He tried to buy Chelsea 3 years ago for £3 billion. And at that time, Roman Abramovich was not interested in selling the club for £3 billion. And I watched a very good interview that Todd Boehly gave, I think, with Bloomberg, the financial news company. He gave a very in-depth interview about why he wanted to buy a Premier League club. And he sort of spoke in a way that would impress football supporters, because he spoke in a way that almost convinced you that this wasn't about money. This was about the community. This was about the connection with the supporters. And I know people of my age and your age, we've heard that kind of thing before. We're probably a bit cynical when people talk like that. But he is somebody who has been trying to buy Chelsea for a long time. And also in that interview, he said, look, I know these clubs don't become available very often. So my strategy is to make connections, to get to know people, to build relationships with key people at the big clubs who one day we would be interested in buying. And I think that's what he has done at Chelsea. So he's somebody that the Chelsea board know, and he has a relationship with them. And I think that is something that will have helped him and his group.
Okay, so is that it then? Is it done?
No, not at all.
What do you mean, no?
No, not at all. This has still got a few more chapters to go, because if it's confirmed that the Todd Boehly consortium are the preferred bidders, they will enter exclusive talks to buy Chelsea. And it doesn't mean that they're definitely going to buy Chelsea. They will just be the front runners. They will be the ones having the exclusive talks. So nobody else will be able to talk to the Rain Group about buying Chelsea for a set period. We don't know what that period is going to be. But there's still the interest from Jim Ratcliffe out there as well. I don't know how he is going to react, whether he can put some pressure on Chelsea to try and buy the club instead of Todd Boehly. Also, you've got to bear in mind that the government have to issue a special licence for Chelsea to be sold. That needs to happen. The new owners also need to pass the Premier League owners and directors test. And I think the really big question, one thing to look out for in the future, is what is going to happen to all this money. If they end up paying £3 billion for Chelsea, that money cannot go to Roman Abramovich. We've heard talk that it's going to go to charities, it's going to go to victims of the war in Ukraine. This is something we need to stay across, we need to follow it, and we need to follow where the money goes, because we're hearing lots of conflicting reports about it's going to go into a frozen account, the government are going to take the money and then give it to a charity, or Roman Abramovich wants to set up his own foundation. It's not very clear at the moment at all, something we really have to watch closely going forward.
What have you made of the way Chelsea have done this business?
I think it's been a very, very difficult time for Chelsea supporters. I know Chelsea supporters feel quite strongly, a lot of them, about what has happened and the way they've been treated by the government. And I think the bigger picture is Roman Abramovich is being forced to sell Chelsea. He doesn't want to sell Chelsea. This is the worst possible time for him to be selling Chelsea, because he's not going to get any of the proceeds. And also, he's put £1.5 billion into the club that he's not going to get back. So I think this has been a very difficult time for him. But the big picture, of course, is what is happening in Ukraine. What Russia are doing there, what the Russian army is doing there, the Russian Air Force, the Russian Navy, what Vladimir Putin is doing there. That is what's really, really important, not what is happening at Chelsea and what's happening with Roman Abramovich. But the process, speaking to people who are involved in it, have said, look, yes, we know that people are exasperated that it's been going on for so long, but you've got to bear in mind, normally a deal this big would take months and months and months, not weeks and weeks.
So it's done, but it's not done.
It's not done yet.